Okay, with 31 clips and like over 20 hours worth of gameplay footage, I was going to have this be like the last episode where it's just live me talking the entire time. But unfortunately, because of the amount of stuff I did, because I got an extra 2 days, because I accidentally posted the last video 2 days later, so I decided to record for an extra 2 days. Um, yeah, I'm going to just voice over it all. Now, first things first, I don't really have many views. Oh my gosh, such a big problem. Oh no. Anyways, it doesn't really matter to me that much. I'm doing it because I like playing games, so I might as well edit. But that leads me to the question of what do you guys actually want to watch? In terms of like videoage of like actual editing. Because I kind of do chaotic. I did a bunch of things editing. Do you guys prefer if I go to more slow pace editing, where it's like I do one thing in the day or two things in the video, versus what I do now, which is like I did five different things. Let me rapid fire them. Just curious. Anyways, into the video. So anyways, I forgot to show this last time, but we made an andesite generator for the create mod. So congrats, now you guys get to see it. It's just a lava and water generator with an andesite underneath it. I AFK'd for a little bit to eat and stuff. I get out of my AFK and I see this. Did something happen in chat? Obtain a hell shelf? No, obtaining a hell shelf was the last thing I did. Oh, I see. They don't destroy blocks because I own the area. No, they don't. Okay, that's cool. Oh, everything, and I do mean everything paths to here. Even the wandering traders or path to this specific location. I don't know why. So anyways, what happened is I made a basement down beneath. This is where I'm planning on putting a bunch of wiring and stuff for AE, such as the auto crafting and such. But because I went AFK after I made the basement, doing some other things, a bunch of mobs spawned, used the bubble elevator, and then managed to get right there next to my bed, which is why there was about 10,000 creepers, and why you saw the extra creeper come up through there too. So then I decided to actually light up the place with sea lanterns because they look nice and I can afford it. I decided to do it every 5 blocks in between them to be able to have sea lanterns. That's what I ended up doing at the end. Okay, so it is basement tour time. Okay, it's not like massive, mainly because I don't feel like making a bunch of stone, because this is stone, this is stone, these are stone, like most of it's stone. Originally, this was not here, as you might have been able to tell by the dirt. We also expanded the platform by 1 block. But anyways, originally this was not here. This was just the void. Everything beyond about here. No, here. Everything beyond about here to about here. All of this was in the void. But we covered it because, as you can see, we have it below. We also started getting these bookshelves made. I'm not sure if I showed that yet, but yeah, we have those bookshelves made. Now, originally, I thought that, this was AE itself. It turns out this is something else that uses, like, AE's wiki. It's a different mod. Um, to say the least, I was slightly overwhelmed with how many different things and tabs and subtabs there were. Um, I haven't touched AE in a while, since I haven't really done modded Minecraft in a while. So... Anyways, I had to relearn everything, so this actually took me a hot second, but eventually I got it. Now, because I'm, once again, not the best with AE, I'm not sure if this is something you can do in the actual mod, or if it's just because of this, but you can do Skystone plus the metal plate plus whatever item you want to make into the press, and that's how you make the press. Now, I know you usually get it from meteorite, you can also dupe it with an iron block, but I still don't know if that's in the usual AE mod where you can use the Skystone to make presses. So I figured I should mention that for the mod's sake. Now, honestly, the rest of this wasn't really too interesting. It was just me doing a bunch of press stuff. But essentially what I did is I cabled everything with a storage bus. So the storage bus allows you to interact with storages outside of the disk drive. And because of that, I could access every single chest that we have the ore, not the ore, the like crushed stuff processing in. So we could access all of those without actually having to take them out of the chest. So yeah, now we have access to all of the ores and stuff that we have. On top of that, we have access to all of that stuff. Uh, we can access any any chest that we have right now because I've attached them all using storage buses into the exact same thing, which is pretty cool. I also saw this disk drive that could hold 256 items without having a type restriction, and it's only like extra cost compared to the normal disk drives as it costs to netherite, which is really nothing for me at this point. So I was going to fill up the entire disk drive with that. Spoiler alert, we made one, and we haven't made any others because the chests are good enough, to be honest. Here we go with the 256 disk drive. Oh, so something I should mention is there is ones that hold millions of items, so that is partially the reason why we didn't make a bunch of 256 drives, because I do want to get to the point where we can have the ones that hold millions of items without a type restriction either, so we could literally store everything we own into one disk drive, and it would all fit. For some reason my mic quality was pretty bad. I fixed it. Anyways, so basically now this was like an entire day's worth of work for me, by the way, getting all of this stuff done. A lot of it was watching tutorials on figuring out how the heck to do applied energistics again, because everybody made it needlessly overcomplicated, and really it wasn't that hard or difficult. I don't know why they did that. But anyways, yeah, everything done and dusted. Uh, this is me getting the achievements, and now everything beyond this is a different day for me. Now, when claiming one of the quests, I got a sink. And then I read the thing, and it basically said sinks can give you 2 million mega buckets of water per tick. I found that to be bullshit though, but we'll get into that. But anyways, I didn't have to use a bunch of electrical pumps now. I could just use sinks, and I was so mad at myself for not looking at the stupid quest and figuring that out. Because sinks are free, infinite water sources that you don't have to spend power, you don't have to do anything fancy, which means we no longer need the big, hideous tank that we have sitting around. We could probably use that for lava instead, but I digress. Also, looking at the quest tab, I figured out that emerald apples exist, and emerald apples give you tons of buffs, including better regeneration, strength. It basically is just a better god apple, to be honest, and it's cheaper. It only costs 8 emeralds each, while also giving you like resistance to fire protection or fire resistance, absorption, regeneration 3, strength 1. You get the point. This thing was like a behemoth, very cheap, very easy to craft, so I made a stack. So I actually didn't make I didn't, this isn't a new day yet, so I kind of lied a little bit earlier. This was right before I was going to go AFK. I noticed this. I was like, holy cow, I need 32 phantom membranes, except no way that I could figure out could I math the math to get 32 phantom membranes before this guy despawns in 32 minutes. Or no, just 30 minutes. So unfortunately, I was not able to get the sword, which makes me big sad. Although it does have life mending, which is kind of evil. You can use, I think it's like the prismatic um web to get rid of those enchantments, the curses. Um, but I digress. This thing had pretty good enchantments, and you can grab the enchantments off of it and put on something else. Um, but we don't have the Phantom Membranes, so I was actually kind of sad about it. So then moving on, I went ahead and off camera grinded a bunch of the bookshelves. I made some of the specialty bookshelves, such as the one that allows for treasure enchants, the other two that allow for increased enchantment clues, two of the ones that give you quanta stability. I'm not really sure if you just need one quanta stability and that's it, or you need multiple with quanta stability. Uh, no clue, to be honest, about that. But they also reduce quanta, which I think is a good thing. Then we also have glowing shelves, because it turns out you can easily make the infused shelves into glowing shelves. And the only difference is the glowing shelves gives you arcana, which is good. So it'll only cost 3 glowstone for the infused to glowing. You get some arcana. Not gonna complain too much about it, so I upgraded all of them to that. By looking at the quests last time, I found out that you can actually go to the end using an end cake. So yeah, originally I was planning on doing that soonish, but then I later said because basically it unlocks a bunch of stuff for the next chapter, I'm going to do it as like the finale of chapter 2 that then goes into chapter 3. So we're not actually doing it in this video, but we should be doing it in the next video. So because we're doing finishing chapter 2 in the second video, I just kind of was looking around seeing that we were really extremely close to finishing chapter 2 to begin with. So much so that we were actually kind of already bleeding into chapter 3, because if you didn't know, getting on Obtainium, I guess, was a chapter 3 thing. Don't know why that is, because I literally got that before I even, like, got halfway through chapter 2, to be honest. It feels like you can go through the chapters, speedrun the chapters, a little bit faster than you can actually complete the chapters. So you can probably get to chapter 5 before you even complete chapter 2, to be honest. Which is kind of funny. Um, but yeah, as you can see, already started into chapter 3, already made tools that are on Obtainium, made food that's on Obtainium, already started in all of that. Anyways, as a little bit of a minor thing, as you can see, I did make bonsai pots full of sugarcane, to passively give me sugarcane, because actually that was becoming a problem for, like, books and stuff. So then, I went ahead and tried to finish up all of the generator stuff by making the 64 generator, which was really expensive because I decided to do the stupid thing. Instead of making it out of the iron generator, I made it out of the netherite one. There was two that we couldn't do, one of them being the honey generator and the other one being the witherstar generator. Um, we couldn't do either of them. As far as I remember, like vaguely from watching other people do mod let's plays, is the witherstar generator is actually cracked, and you should use it if you can. The only problem is it requires a lot of wither stars, so if you can automatically kill a bunch of withers, you'll be in business. But for right now, that had nothing to do with me. Um, because we can go to the end, I assume there's still going to be end ships with ender dragons heads on it, so we should be good with that. So that's where we can get the Ender Dragon head. Then we can automate Endstone. I'm not really sure how good any of that's going to be. Anyways, the potion generator disappointed me. It basically didn't give you any power at all, and it ate up your potions like nobody's business. So not only did it not last a long time, it didn't give you that much power at any given time, but on top of that, it didn't even give you much power at all. As you can see, it just ate a bunch of potions, and we only have 200 power in it. That's awful. Um, Then the purple amethyst one requires dragon's breath, which we don't really have a good amount of. The enchantment one is actually not too bad of a generator. This was like one enchanted sword that it an unenchanted, and it got plenty of it, stuff off of it. No, it wasn't even a sword. I think it was just a sharpness 3 book. So we got that much from a sharpness 3 book. It lasts kind of a while, but it doesn't really make too much power at once. So it was okay. I had some enchanted swords that I needed to get the enchantments off. This one was crazy. The coronary generator, I threw one oldemodium carrot into it, and I kid you not, it makes more than any of the other generators combined, but on top of that, it lasts for so long. I could probably power my entire base using like just a couple of these and a couple old Imodium carrots. I like haphazardly calculated it. Uh, it said it should last like 2,000 years almost, which is stupid. Why should this last 2,000 years? Um, but anyways, point being, uh, it makes a lot of energy and it lasts quite a while. So these were probably hands down the best. I could probably make the 64 times of these generators and power my entire base with just like 3 of them. But we didn't do that because, yeah. So now it's time to put down the 64 times netherite generator. It produces 32,000 RF a tick, which is pretty good. Almost 33,000 RF per tick. The fuel doesn't really last as long as I would really want it to, but it does just burn coal. And to be honest, it makes quite a lot of power compared to all of the other generators. Admittedly, it is the 64 times cubed one, and the coronary one actually might have a run for its money if we did that one instead, but it's fine. Now, admittedly, as much as they do make, my nuclear reactor from Mechanism still makes leaps and bounds more than these. But then I started realizing that maybe these were supposed to be the mid tier between like when I make the reactor and before I make the reactor. Um, but we made the reactor, so it doesn't really matter anyways anymore, does it? Unless I try speedrunning this old Imodium, but we'll see. Speaking of making all of this power, I was starting to think we need some place to stow all of this power. So that way we can make a bunch of power now, and we'll keep a bunch of power so we don't have to run the nuclear reactor always. Um, Essentially, the turbine right now is acting kind of like a battery, but I want like an official, really big battery. And my idea is we could put literally everything that makes power into the battery, and then we could have everything that needs power come out the other end of the battery. So that way it's just easier to keep track of everything. Um, so anyways, yeah, I wanted to make that. Turns out it cost a lot more than I thought, so I got sidetracked a few times along the way. So, we need lithium to make the big battery. So, yeah, we needed to do that whole thing. Example one of me getting sidetracked. I went ahead and put on this whole thing so that way we can make plutonium dust using the spent or the nuclear fuel waste, and then we could turn it into spent nuclear where the point being we're turning our waste into polonium instead of just into the barrels and have it eat us, delete us it. And then here's the first example of a sink. That's why I know it doesn't freaking allow you to have like 2 billion millibuckets. I don't know why they said that. They're lying to me. Anyways, there's the thermal evaporation plants. This one takes in water. This one, I'm going to put a sink on the back of that, but one takes in water, makes it into brine. The other one takes in brine, makes it into lithium, and that's how you get lithium. And voila, here we go. Sink putting water, meaning we don't need electrical pipes and stuff. And as you can see, it doesn't do 2 billion once. That would have filled up in like 0.0 seconds. But anyways, now you can see the brine goes in and stuff, and now we get lithium. Woo! I know, fantastic. The condenser has to turn the liquid lithium into regular lithium, and then the lithium, when I set it right, will then go into the crystallizer, and the crystallizer will crystallize it into lithium dust, and then we can use the lithium dust to make our batteries. Yay. Okay, so I'm a little bit into the process of trying to make the induction cell, and I am finding out that it requires so much more resources than I thought it was going to. So, just for context, at mechanism induction. So, for this alone, you need to have the basic energy cell and a bunch of energy tablets to have the basic energy cell. You need a bunch of steel for this, a bunch of redstone for that, a bunch of iron for that. On top of that, you need all of this gold. You also need a bunch of infused alloy and even more redstone, right? That's just to make one of these, the basic tier. To make the advanced tier, you need, guess what? 4 of the other ones. I know. Crazy. If you're wondering how that calculated out, if you want to make the last tier, the ultimate tier, you would need an entire stack of the basic tier, which means you need 64 of those, which means you need 64 regular batteries plus another 64 regular batteries plus like an additional what 4 stacks of the energy tablets, not to mention the ones you also need to make all of the batteries and stuff. And then that's just for the first tier, and then you need to do that again, but with advanced battery and a bunch more energy tablets, etc., etc. You get the point. Basically, every tier you want to go up is like the equivalent of having inferium dust trying to get to supremium dust. Uh, where it just is like exponentially you need more the higher tiers you go. So yeah, it's really, really taxing on resources. So then I got sidetracked and I started thinking, you know what we could do when we need a bunch of resources? We can quanta triple con quant quantuple it 5 times it. Because Mechanism does have a way that you can 5 times multiply the ores you have. I was thinking that we can build a thing down here where we have, the 5 times ore duplication. I'm finally doing ore duplication. I know. We also needed to make more processors. That is, we need a lot of processors because you also need to upgrade the processors every single time and blah blah. Anyways, yeah. So we're doing 5 times ore duplication now. Oh, so before I forget it, because I completely and entirely forgot to mention it, uh, I decided to do the Giga Chad move of upgrading these to Netherite now that I can, and this with speed and blast furnace on top of having the factory augment, basically instantly smelts anything you put into that. Okay, back with a little intermission. So we went ahead and we got these 2 infusers, took down this. This one had reinforced obsidian, now it only has 10. This one had redstone, now it's gone. This one had diamonds, now it's gone. And as you can imagine, if we go to alloys, we have 2,400 infused alloy, almost 2,000 reinforced alloy. Now, sadly, I actually thought we had more than enough. It turns out we needed about an extra 3,000 alloy for everything I wanted to do. Just for today. Or for this video, right? Which is ridiculous, by the way. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, continuing on. So I made every single machine that we needed for this entire, or quintupling situation. Uh, and we also had to redesign this exact same system that I had again to be able to make sulfuric acid. I was debating whether or not I should just use it to siphon off the sulfuric acid. But then later I decided, nah, I'm just going to make another system down below in the basement for the ore quintupling. Now, to be 100% honest, the quest book kind of like made my brain turn into soup. I don't know why. I just find it easier to not read the quest book, to be honest. The quest book confused me more than it helped with this whole process, to be honest. So I went ahead and watched a guide instead and figured it all out. It's really not too complicated. All you need to do is have really, it's 3 different systems into one. You need a system to make sulfuric acid, a system to make hydrochloric, or hydrochloric acid, right? And then a system for oxygen, which you already get via the electronic separators because you already need hydrogen to be able to have hydrochloric acid to begin with. And then you also need the oxygen for the other thing to make the sulfuric acid, and you get both of those from the electric separators. So it's really not that hard. So I guess it's technically 4 systems. You need electric separators, you need sulfuric acid, you need hydrochloric acid, and then you also need the actual system that does the ore duplication. So we got all of that done and dusted. And now we have ore quintupling. In between update, so you know how we're working on making the induction thing. Well, funny story. We got a little bit sidetracked again. So we have all of this set up still. So we've made a couple of plutonium pellets because it turns out the ore duplication cost a lot of power. This thing was like on a third of its power that it had. So we activated the nuclear reactor again. We also put in a bunch of control rods for it. We still have it at a burn rate of 10 for now because it cannot withstand 36. But what we did add to it is a bunch of these. A bunch of sinks. These sinks make where it doesn't even drain any water out of this, even when this is full of steam. So if we activate it now, as you can see, this makes steam, uses the fuel, doesn't drain water out of here. The pipes stay pretty much filled, and everything's good. So this is 20 sinks. So if 20 sinks sustains 10 burn rate, I would presume that we would need, well, double 36. So that's what, 72 for it to be able to be at 36 burn rate. Now I have no clue if you pull from each side of it, if it gives you more or if it just gives you the same, just distributed differently. So for instance, if I pull from here, it gives me like, let's say 1 bucket per second. Or if I pour from the top, does it give me another bucket per second, or does each one just give me half a bucket per second? Hello, everybody. So we made the induction ultimate provider. I forget if I already showed this, but we also have all of this pumping in with. Currently, we have just iron, to be honest. So it's gonna go iron, gold, then osmium, copper, uranium, gold again. Then it's gonna be ancient debris, tin, lead, zinc. Anyways, you get the point. To be honest, I don't think it's going through the iron fast enough, if I'm not gonna lie to you. Uh, I think I might be producing more iron than it's using. I wanted to pop in and quickly say, we have 54,000 iron because it is just mono doing iron. But what I wanted to do was have a system using like auto crafters so that way whenever I actually needed something, it would do that specific thing and only that specific thing instead of having it constantly just inject whatever it has in its system. So that way we can, keep ores just in case we wanted the ore blocks, and we can make the things whenever we specifically need them without delay or as much of a delay. Um, and then I was also thinking, why don't we just make a system for every single ore block in the entire game? So basically, we make a quintuple ore thing for every single type of ore there is. There's like 20 ores in this, so we would need to make 20 whole systems. And I'm not sure if I really wanted to do that, but I did make at least one extra. Now, before I made one extra, I actually did make a tiny battery. I have the entire chunk laid out because eventually it will take up an entire chunk. And as you can see, we have two of the capacitors, or whatever you want to call the things that hold the power. And then we have one thing that inputs outputs. Also, something I completely forgot to mention, we expanded the mechanism area when we made the thermal evaporators by quite a bit. Yeah, you guys probably already noticed this. Um, but now we also went ahead and made where this outputs to WinGen, and then we have WinGen go into the system, and then yeah, so everything that makes power is going to go through into this battery, and everything that uses power is going to pull from the battery. So that's my ultimate plan. Everything goes in and out of this battery. Now, after doing a little bit of testing, I figured out where the two slowest parts is. It's the oxidizers with the sulfur, and it's actually the crystallizers. As you can see, I made 3 crystallizers. I was thinking, oh, 3 crystallizers, it should be perfect. As you can see, even the chemical slurry is going away, right? But it turns out all of these are actually full, and all of it's going into the pipes. Yep, that means, no, it is not a good amount. In fact, heads up, I think you might need upwards of 10 of them to keep up with the other machines. To be fully, like, transparent with you. Because I was doing a little bit more testing later on, but we'll see. Anyways, I also needed to put an acceleration chip, because adding the extra crystallizers made us end up smelting more items, and if you don't have the acceleration chip, it doesn't quite do enough. So yeah. Now, initially, instead of putting the extra crystallizers, what I actually wanted to do was make an entire nether system, which I didn't want to do because it was late at night the last time, but now that it's a new day, once again, this is like the third new day that it is, I made the second system. I also made the extra oxidizers for the sulfuric acid, uh, using the netherite chest, and having it go into the back of all of them. Anyways, on top of that, you might notice a lack of a bunch of random annoying pipes with the oxygen, sulfuric acid, and everything else. Where did they all go? We still need to pipe this stuff. Well, don't worry, I went ahead and just did a basement under my basement. Honestly, this This looks cool as shiza. I don't care what anybody says. The underneath looks cool as shite. Anyways, I just have everything piping from down below instead, so that way everything looks nice above. It also makes it easier to move around these pipes specifically, so that way we don't have any, like, problems with other pipes and the machines and space in general, to be honest. So, yeah. Also, I'm using the ultimate pipes just so that way we have the pipes plus the storage in one. So we have plenty of backlog of storage, to be honest. So we don't really need to worry about that. So then we went ahead and set up the system. We have it as gold only, and we also added an extra 2 crystallizers compared to what I had at base, which was only 5. So now we have 7. And guess what? It still makes more slurry than these things can use, realistically. So that's why I was saying you could probably put 10 crystallizers. And honestly, I'm not even sure if 10 crystallizers is enough. I'm going to be so for real with you. Um, so honestly, it's like a simple, you need to do one thing to make this thing faster, and it's just add more crystallizers, to be honest. Which is good and bad, because the second that you can't just add more crystallizers and it goes faster, um, then you kind of like need to redesign your entire system, and it becomes an entire slog. But otherwise, yeah, it works just fine with everything else, the ultimate tier upgrades and stuff, and even the furnace. It goes all really good and smooth. So just adding more crystallizers just makes it faster. End of story, period. If you make this system, make sure you make at least 5 crystallizers. Something I should note is I have everything with max speed upgrades and max energy efficiency upgrade. The energy efficiency doesn't matter. Max speed upgrades and max gas efficiency upgrades. The reason why that is actually important is for the simple fact that some things get 256 speed, while other things only get 16 speed when they have maxed out speed efficiency cards. And I think the chemical slurry and the chemical dissolution get 256, while pretty much everything else only gets 16 in the system. So that's probably why those two are waiting on the crystallizers, because the crystallizers only get 16 versus the other two getting 256. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I learned something for Ars Nouveau. These little starbunkles, you give them a golden nugget, they grab it, and then they turn into Starbuncle tokens. So it was at this point in the video where I wanted to finish up the last couple of things, which was only the Foundry and Mob Grinder utils, I believe, besides the bosses and going to the end. So we decided to focus on the one that is easier, which is Mob Grinder utilities. Oh, so powa. You only needed to make a dielectric paste and a capacitor, but I did more than that. Anyways, I didn't want to start on the bosses because, yeah, the end leads to the rest of that stuff, so I was going to save it for when we do Chapter 3. So then we need a power reactor, and, well, we didn't need to, but freaking I decided to anyways, because I thought it was going to be so good. Turns out it's really bad. So not only do you need 36 of the blocks to make one, which I didn't realize you do, but on top of that, it doesn't even make that much power. So we did use the starter one. So maybe that's why. But the starter one only made, kid you not, a grand total of like 100 FE per tick. It was like 90 for most of it. Once you put coolant into it, it was like 110. The coolant doesn't last forever. And I was just really disappointed by it. That it only made like a 90 FE per tick. And admittedly, I had no other use for uraninite. But freaking just 90 FE per tick is so sad for like a nuclear reactor. It was not worth my time, to be honest. So then my system kind of broke. It took me a hot second to realize the reason why it broke is because it had no oxygen in it. Um, or the fact that it had oxygen in it. This needs the hydrochloride. Somehow the pipes got churned around and now it has oxygen in it, so I had to solve that issue. I'm impressed with myself. It literally took me like 10 minutes to figure this out. That's really not that long for me to figure it out by myself. Anyways, yeah, so the pipes only got connected in one specific area. So, yeah, they kind of like corrupted everything. So the hydrochloride wasn't able to do what it was supposed to. So, yeah, then I had to drain out all of the oxygen out of the pipe. So I just made, containers, and now I have like a couple of filled containers inside of my storage. But whatever, it's done. So then we went ahead and also did the mob grinder utilities. As you can see, fantastic. We even have the experience tab to get the XP. Completed all of the quests for that whole thing. So fantastic, I know, right? Um, so now we just have like a passive mob farm and XP farm, I guess, which is pretty cool. Also the Ender inhibitor to keep Endermen from teleporting all over the place. Um, the chest with the void upgrade to get rid of any tools, armors, and potions. Anything with durability in general. So yeah. Now, we were kind of like running low on brine since the thermal evaporators only work in the daytime. And since we also need it to make tritium, which is needed for DT fuel, since I want to work towards nuclear fusion, so that way we literally have like infinite power. Um, the thing is we kind of need DT fuel. So he went ahead and made a lot more brines. That way, we can eventually make a whole lot of trinium. And also, so that way we can utilize our ore duplication or quintupling. So, yeah. Anyways, they were not cheap. I wanted to make 10 of them. I only made 5 of them. Uh, they were really expensive, especially since you need 4 solar panels for each of them if you want them to be at maximum efficiency, that is. The solar panels passively heat them, so you don't need a recursive heater or anything like that. Um, and the taller they are, the more they actually do at a time, which is better. So the hotter it is, right, the more it does the buckets per second. But also the bigger it is, the more buckets it does per second at a lower temperature too. So making them big is like really worth it for them. So trust me when I say make it the max size, which is 18 blocks. Um Also, the advanced solar panels are like really overpowered for this. They cost you absolutely nothing, unlike the wood burners and the recursive heaters, and they just passively heat it up. The only downside is it has to be daytime, like I mentioned before. And when it is daytime, these little suckers can, on the max size, get up to like 3,000 bucket, um, like conversion rate, which is really good, to be honest. This actually leads me to an entire question because I think I remember like a really long time ago what I did is I made one of these, I put solar panels on it, and then I actually, instead of importing heat, I exported heat from it to actually heat up a boiler, if I remember correctly, which is something I completely forgot about until actually right now when I'm like doing this. Um, Anyways, also as you can see, I have all of those hooked up to like a power thing, and the power thing is in that it's not a lot of power, it's like 9,000 power, but it is free power, and ultimately I spent the money on the solar panels, I get the power, okay? So, anyways, have a good day, y'all.